The replacement to the legendary Lamborghini Aventador is finally here, and it's called the Revuelto. It makes 1001 horsepower, revs to 9,500 RPM, and reaches a top speed of 217 miles an hour. Is it better than the Ferrari SF90? Well, today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the new bull. It's called the Revuelto, or Revuelto. As most of the Lamborghini's names come from, they come from a Spanish fighting bull. Revuelto means scrambled or mixed, hinting at the fact that this car is not only powered by a screaming V12, but electric motors as well. The powertrain is extremely cool and exactly what Lamborghini needed to stay in the race for power and excitement. With the SF90 pushing 986 horsepower, the Aventador Ultimate at just 780 horsepower was left in the dust, albeit a much better sounding and better looking dust. Lamborghini has responded with a big FU to Ferrari with what might just be the best looking hybrid supercar ever made. It retains a 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12, but the engine is now 37 pounds lighter than before and revs to an insane 9,500 RPM. That's 800 RPM higher than the Ultimate, a car that already sounds absolutely incredible. In fact, the Aventador is one of my favorite sounding vehicles of all time. Add in a slightly lighter engine with a higher RPM, yeah, that's going to sound insane. And let's be honest, the SF90 sounds average at best, so this is just a huge win. On its own, the V12 makes 814 horsepower and 535 pound-feet of torque. But that's only 1/4 of the story. There's more. Lamborghini has added 3 electric motors to the mix. 2 axial flux electric motors are added up front, 1 on each wheel. Each make up to 147 horsepower and allow for advanced torque vectoring. They also allow for the removal of the heavy all-wheel drive drivetrain components, as the front wheels are only powered by the electric motors and not the V12. Behind the 2 electric motors is a 3.8 kilowatt-hour battery that sits inside the vehicle's central tunnel to increase rigidity. Now here is where things get awesome. Further back in the car sits the 6.5-liter V12. In every V12 Lamborghini since the Countach, the gearbox has sat in front of the V12. The issue with this is packaging space. It didn't allow enough room for a double clutch transmission. This was one of my gripes with the original Aventador. I didn't understand why they wouldn't just put a double clutch in it, but it turns out the layout just didn't allow for it. Well, Lamborghini has spun it around, mounting the transmission to the rear of the engine for the first time ever, allowing for an 8-speed DCT in a V12 car. The Aventador's Achilles heel was its single-clutch transmission. However, while it sucked at low speeds and city driving, the absolute terror and aggressiveness of the shifts is part of what makes the Aventador so epic. I'm hoping with the new 8-speed trans, they incorporate more aggressive shifts than the 7-speed DCT on the Huracan. Lamborghini says the shifts will happen even faster than the STO's DCT. When I had a Gallardo and I moved to the Huracan, while the Huracan was better in every conceivable way, I did miss those intense single clutch shifts. So I'm hoping they do make it more aggressive than the Huracan for the Revuelto. Sitting on top of the 8-speed DCT is the 3rd electric motor. Instead of sandwiching the electric motor between the engine and gearbox, it actually sits on top of just the gearbox. This allows for the electric motor to operate completely independently from the internal combustion engine, allowing for a full electric driving experience of up to 10 miles. That way you can get out of your neighborhood before sending it towards its 9,500 RPM redline and making some new enemies. Let's talk performance. Lamborghini says the Revuelto will be faster in a straight line and around the track than the track monster SVJ. That's pretty impressive considering it's going to weigh a significant amount more with the 3 electric motors and the fact that the SVJ was built to make crazy lap times. Now, they've posted a rather conservative 0 to 100 kph time of 2.5 seconds, which likely will translate to a 0 to 60 close to 2 seconds flat to compete with the SF90. Lambo says it will sprint from 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, or 124 miles an hour, in 7 seconds, and then on to a top speed of 217 miles an hour. Now, they haven't released it yet, but if I had to guess, the quarter mile should be smack in the middle of the 9s. I believe SF90s are in the range of 9.5 with an amazing launch, and I imagine Lamborghini wants to target that and either reach a 9.5 or maybe slightly even faster. Now, design-wise, the Revuelto is stunning. The Aventador was one of the best-looking supercars ever made, so improving upon that was a difficult task, but Lamborghini has done so extremely well. It borrows stylistic elements from its special hypercars while staying true to its DNA. The coolest parts is the engine bay. Instead of a glass engine cover, the engine has been left completely exposed to the elements for everyone to see. I've never seen a car like this. It looks so epic, and I love all of the little vents and undulations around the engine. And so will all the people that go to Cars and Coffees and track events and in the canyons when they stumble upon this rare beast and they can see the engine not having to look through a piece of glass. The rear exhausts are mounted up extremely high on the vehicle and look very, very cool and sit just below the folding rear wing. This is much higher up on the car than traditionally we're used to with the Aventador, perhaps allowing for a bigger, more aggressive rear diffuser. To the sides are Y-shaped taillights, reminiscent of the Lamborghini Centenario. I am so thankful they didn't decide to put the funky-looking Scion taillights on the car. This Y-shape looks so much better. The side of the Revuelto has an enormous air intake, similar to the Scion and the Veneno to feed cool air into the massive V12. It also has these hidden door handles that act as aero to feed additional air into the radiators, which I think is pretty darn cool. The front end is incredibly aggressive as well, with Y-shaped lights similar to the Scion. This is one of the best looking front end designs Lamborghini has made in a long time. It's extremely aggressive, but it doesn't look too busy. It doesn't seem like they're trying to borrow too many different design elements from cars of the past, resulting in this cluttered look. It looks really clean on the front end, while still looking strikingly Lamborghini, a bit like an Aventador, but for the modern era. The interior has been completely overhauled as well, which is a good thing, as Lamborghini's interior tech was starting to get a bit dated, particularly compared to Ferrari's new graphics. Have no fear, we now have a beautiful 8-inch central display with excellent graphics, hopefully it responds well, and even a 9-inch passenger display. I thought this was very interesting because Ferrari was kind of the master of the passenger displays, so it almost feels like they're taking a stab at them by copying that design element and trying to improve upon it in a little bit. Like on the Ferrari, the passenger display can be used to see what driving mode you're in, what speed you're going, and additionally control the navigation or media. To be honest, I don't really get it in terms of it being functional. You could just go to the central display, which is, a couple inches farther away from the passenger. It just looks really, really cool, and it's a design element that totally spruces up the interior, and I'm very glad they did that. In fact, the interior can be spruced up with over 70 different combinations of interior colors, which is absolutely insane. Now, the instrument cluster graphics have been improved as well, with a 12-inch customizable display in front of the steering wheel. There are 13 different driving modes to choose from, and for the first time in a Lamborghini, there is a dedicated launch control button. On the old Aventador, you had to hold ESC off for a while you were in Corsa mode, and then you floor the brake and the gas to enter thrust mode. Now, to be honest, it's one of the easiest launch control systems. It doesn't require any sort of video game cheat codes to activate. But on the new car, there is a nuclear launch style big red button to hit to get the car ready to sprint from 0 to 60 in just 2 seconds. Now, let's go over some of those driving modes. In Strada mode, the street setting, it's the most comfortable, easy to drive mode, something you should never, ever be in a Lamborghini. It's sacrilegious. I'm half kidding, but I'm half not. It's so much more fun in anything but Strada mode. The transmission and drivetrain is relaxed in this mode, and interestingly, it makes less horsepower, just 886. The funny part is the street mode has 100 horsepower more than an SVJ in Corsa mode. Move on to sport mode and we get 907 horsepower and better throttle response. When you put it into Corsa mode, you unleash that full 1001 horsepower fury. So, how much will it cost? Well, Lamborghini hasn't stated a price yet, but they've hinted at a base price of around $550,000, or about 20 grand more than the Ferrari SF90. So is it better than the SF90? Well, I'll have to drive it to find out, but from the stats and looks, it looks better, it's going to sound better. The SF90's V8 is a bit lackluster with the twin turbos. and it should be just as fast. So very, very exciting times for Lamborghini. Well, guys, there you have it. Everything you need to know about the new Revuelto. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.